An interesting question hit the Supreme Court this week. Can Texas ban certain images from appearing on your license plate? It centers around this plate, the Sons of Confederate Veterans. They want to sell this through the state's plate program. It shows a Confederate flag. The group argues it symbolizes Southern heritage, but Texas rejected it and called it a symbol of white supremacy. And this week, the Supreme Court tackled this case. And here to talk more about it is Chad Ruback, a Dallas appellate attorney who's followed this case. Good morning, Chad. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what's at stake here?
Whether or not the Confederate veterans get to put their logo on a Texas license plate. Not just that, though, also whether other groups can. Thus far, the Texas DMV has been the deciding factor, and they don't tell us how they decide yay or nay for some groups versus others.
So as the Supreme Court weighs through this, what do you think is going to be the sort of where the decision will tilt? What fact do you think will sort of,
sway them?
Yeah, exactly.
It seemed like the primary concern the justices had was whether or not this constitutes free speech.
Right.
The state of Texas position, the DMV's position is this isn't free speech. This is governmental speech. These are our license plates, the state of Texas says, and we get to decide what goes on them. This is not individual speech, it's governmental speech. The Confederate veterans, on the other hand, take the opposite position. They say this is classic free speech. If what someone puts on their car, the logo, is not free speech, then what the heck is?
Okay, so what kinds of arguments? Did they hear both sides?
They sure did. Mm-hmm. The justices asked the Confederate veterans attorney some hypothetical questions. What if the Nazi Party wanted to put a swastika on a license plate? Would the state of Texas be required to issue such a license plate? And he answered candidly, yes, the state of Texas shouldn't censor offensive speech. That's what free speech is. We should have the right to say things that other people find offensive. Being the justices, asked the lawyer for the Texas DMV, well, how do you decide what's offensive and what isn't? What's the standard? How is this decision made? And he didn't really have a great answer. He just indicated we have a group of 9 board members, and they make that decision. They get to make the call.
So do you have any idea, I mean, what are your thoughts on which way this might go?
I think it's going to be a close call. As you might know, the federal judge in Austin ruled in favor of the state's DMV. It was then appealed to the Federal Court of Appeals in New Orleans, the Fifth Circuit. Mm-hmm. They had a split decision, 2-1, in favor of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Now it's the Supreme Court. I think we're going to see another split decision. It's going to be another close call.
Really? So do you have any idea where public opinion is on this?
I think public opinion is very much against the Confederate veterans' right to have the Confederate battle flag on a license plate. That being said, as one of the justices said at the oral argument, it's going to be very difficult for Texas to say we can't have the Confederate battle flag, but we can have these other groups. Chief Justice Roberts even said, well, if you're going to allow some groups, you're going to need to allow all the groups.
All right. Thank you so much, Chad Ruback, for trying to lay it out for us. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And thanks for joining us today on Lone Star Politics. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday.